Take your event to the next level with Crossroads TV. Professional audio and video production, multi-camera live streaming, audio system for your panels and entertainment, plus stunning video screen production on LED walls. High quality, seamless production, tailored to your needs. Let us bring your vision to life. Contact us today.
For which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You're early.
All right, good evening, everyone. Going to remind you to silence your cell phones. I always forget, so I remember tonight. Okay, first order of business, announcements. Town of Fairfield is hiring. Oh, I will go to our website. All details can be found at www.fairfieldme.com. Town of Fairfield is hiring. Please visit the website for more information. Dog licenses are now past due. Any dog registered will be subject to a $25 late fee per dog. Lawrence Public Library. February is Library Lovers Month. Check out Blind Date with a Book, craft kits for kids and adults, and more. Free tech help from the National Digital Equity Center every fourth Tuesday of the month. The library's website can be accessed through the town's website, and all programs and events are posted on the calendar events page. You can also find us on Facebook. All non-emergency services will be closed on Monday, February 17th, 2025, in observance of President's Day. Second order of business, public hearings. We have none. Third order of business, public comments. We will limit to 3 minutes. Members of the public may speak to the council or request an opportunity to speak on a specific item that is on the agenda, or may email comments for council to info@fairfield-me.gov by 4 p.m. day of the meeting. Submitted content may be read aloud at this time. Do we have any public interested in speaking tonight?
You might have purposely to talk about something. First, a pause for dramatic effect.
Can you tell us your name?
Gary Goldsmith. I live on
Gary,
Greenville.
and what item would you like to speak on?
I'd like to talk about property taxes.
That's not on tonight's agenda.
Well, I'd like to be on the
Okay,
agenda.
well, you'll have to send that in for the next meeting before 4 p.m. of the next
Well,
meeting.
I'm here. Why can't I speak tonight?
Because it's not on the agenda and it has to be posted before that. So we can write it down to add to the next agenda, but it won't be on tonight's agenda.
Okay. You do that then.
With all due respect, actually, excuse me, sir. Jared.
Gary.
Gary. So with all due respect, actually, public comments, anything can be allowed. If he wants to get up and read a menu for 3 minutes, he can do so.
Yeah.
That's what public comments. If you want to talk about something else that's later in the agenda, then we can do that. But anyway, just trying to give information.
Is he coming back?
I don't know. I think Carol Ann just went to go grab him.
Okay. So we're waiting for Gary to come back. Is there anybody else who would like to speak tonight on any specific item? Nobody? We'll wait for Gary to come back.
He's coming. Just a bit of confusion, Gary. You've got
Thank
your
you,
3 minutes.
Carol Ann.
Property taxes.
Okay.
They are excessive. I would call it another word like I do down at Walmart, but I won't use that word. I'll just say they're excessive. Property taxes, in my opinion, don't need to be as high as they are. It's ridiculous. Now, I'm thinking that with all you people on the council, you could come up with some reasons to get the taxpayers lowered. For one thing, I think we spend too much on education. That's it. Property taxes are excessive. It's ridiculous. Thank you.
So Gary, I'm just gonna address that comment. We're on it with you. We're in current process of budget committee. They'll meet in a couple weeks. The council's already met its first meeting. And as far as the school and county, the town council has no control over that.
Oh.
So that's about half your property taxes. You'll need to go to the school agenda. I'll be there, gladly sit beside you.
When's the next school board meeting?
That's usually in April or May is when they will do, that is when they will do their agenda. It's at the junior high school. They'll do it per warrant. It will get voted on there at that time. And then it goes to the June referendum vote, which we also vote on. And each town will vote on that. So your school and county are about half of your property taxes, maybe a little bit more. Michelle could elaborate.
It's over half.
So we understand. I'm going to tell you there's three schools that will be closed going into December of next year.
You closed
And our
schools in
voices-
town?
The primary is already closed. Albion and Clinton are due to be closed in December when the new school in Benton opens through grades 3 through 6. But it's important for our citizens to show up and our voices to be heard at that school meeting as well. We'll announce it when it's coming up, once we have dates.
Okay.
I will be there. I know Matt joined me last year, so yes, that's about half, a little more than half of your property taxes.
Well, I'm beginning to feel a little bit better.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Gary.
Okay, fourth order of business, reports from staff and committees. Town manager report. Michelle.
Right, so January 23rd, the council did attend their MMA elected officials webinar here in this building. January 28th, you attended the fire department union contract negotiations with Councilor Thibodeau and Councilor Martin. We'll be discussing those later on at the end of the meeting. June 30th, attended legislative policy committee meeting via Zoom. February 4th, I attended economic community development. Councilor Thibodeau will report on that. Also that evening was the PFAS committee, which Councilor Townsend will report on. February 5th, the council did have their 25-26 budget discussions, so that was a very productive day. We'll continue that again this evening. And just as a general update for folks, just so they're aware, all state of Maine offices have been already closed for tomorrow, as well as MSAG school system for the incoming storm. The town of Fairfield's non-emergency services will not make that determination until tomorrow morning. We've fallen for this trap once before and won't do it again. And please be safe if you must travel. And also to remind people of the Fairfield parking ban, please make sure your vehicles are not parked along the road edge between midnight and 5 a.m. And that's it for me. Thank you.
And Michelle's been sick, so I'm very happy she's with us
And
tonight.
yes, all the rest of that time I've had the flu. So
All right. Who's next for committees? Is
Economic?
Economics.
Okay.
Council
The
Thibodeau.
Economic and Community Development Committee met on February 4th. The committee was given copies of the Town Farm Road Residential Development Feasibility Study. It was prepared by Dirigo Engineering in 2020. The committee was asked to read it for next month's meeting and to be prepared with comments and questions. We're also preparing for our 4 info sessions on climate resiliency. The first info session will be February 25th from 6 to 7:30 here in Council Chambers. Our guest speaker will be Molly Siegel from the Governor's Office of Policy, Innovation, and the Future, and she will speak about Maine's updated climate action plan, Maine Won't Wait. We'll discuss the plan's strategies, statutory targets, and how individuals, communities, and businesses can take action. Climate Resiliency Information Session number 2 is going to be May 20th at here at the Fairfield Community Center from 6 to 7:30 in this room. And it will be a panel discussion on preparedness and emergency management. We'll have 5 people on the panel. There'll be Jonathan Ross, Maine's Director of Preparedness and Homeland Security, Wes Sumner, who's the Senior Planner of Preparedness and Homeland Security, Bill Gideon, Mass Care Coordinator and Sheltering for Community Emergency, Travis Leary, our Fire Chief, who's also our Emergency Management Coordinator, and Sarah Bickford, who's the Somerset County Deputy Director for Emergency Management. For that session, be prepared. There'll be handouts. People can ask questions, and hopefully we'll have answers as well. We also discussed our Mill Island, and the committee is in the process of finalizing a brochure on the Mill Island redevelopment plan. The brochure will be used for grants as well as for keeping the public informed. Last month, a representative from the Bureau of Parks and Lands toured the island, and years ago, the Bureau of Parks and Lands awarded the town a Land Water Conservation Fund grant and for Mill Island, and we are looking for another grant from the Land and Water Conservation Fund. And because we've already been a beneficiary, it looks good that we can benefit from another round of monies, at least for maintenance on the island. The committee also discussed the initial layout for the downtown redevelopment, and to help facilitate the public session. And we've spent like 3 months getting ready for this, because we'll be having a public input session on April 15th. It's going to be tax day, we know. But hopefully by 6 o'clock, people will have everything filed and they can come to this. But we need input, not only from it's at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
We need input from the public. We need the business owners. We need to have people that would like to see our downtown change. And this is beginning the conversation. And so we've been working on just defining what is the downtown area, not the business district, but a downtown area. And so what we did this month gave us that baseline so that we can have future conversations with the public. So it was a busy meeting, and we are
Productive.
doing a lot, and I'll keep you posted.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor Townsend, PFAs?
The PFAS committee met on February 4th. Actually, we are near finalization of our plan. We are meeting on February 18th to kind of button it up. And hopefully, depending on what the schedule is and what's on the agenda for our next meeting here on February 26th, we would be presenting then.
Awesome. Any other committee updates? Nope, seeing none. Fifth order of business, consent agenda. These items are considered routine or standard business and therefore will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless council members so request prior to consideration of this portion of the agenda, in which event the item will be removed consent agenda and considered next on the agenda. Item 25-20, order that the Fairfield Town Council hereby waives the reading of and accepts the minutes of the meeting number 2025-02 held on January 22nd, 2025, and item 25-21, order that the Town Council hereby approves the Treasurer's warrant number 102 in the amount of $702,500.01 to include but not limited to New England Salt Company, motor vehicle fees, MSAD 49 February allocation, and MMA employee health insurance.
So moved.
Second. You got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Yes, Councilor Tiver.
Is it 1 cent or 11 cents?
It says 1 cent on.
Because the
my-
warrant list said 11 cents.
Okay,
So
so I would go off the warrant list. I believe it was updated after it was given to me, so,
11 cents.
okay.
Okay, so we will correct the warrant to $702,500.11.
Yep.
there any other discussion?
I didn't even have that on mine.
That's on negative tonight, it always, that is okay.
Okay.
So it'll be 11 cents instead of 1. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. 6th order of business, old business. Website. Our town clerk has participated in 4 demos for potential website hosts. Revise, attended on 129, Civic Plus on 130, iWord at 131, and Munibit 24 of 25. And Brittany, you still doing more to come, or?
I reached out to one other company with nothing back from them as of yet. So as of right now, just those 4.
So is there any possible way we can put that in the paper for local options as well?
I mean, we could.
So that's going to be part of the conversation of the presentation to council after we get done with these quick reviews as to whether or not you're satisfied with the review that we did or whether you wanted to go out to bid and extend the length of the process. But that'll be, should be next meeting.
Okay.
Item 2, stabilization of fire department and police department. New committee proposal to be discussed under the 7th order of business. PFA committee report, Dr. Townsend just gave us that, and continues to work on the completion for the final report, which we're expecting next meeting, the 26th. Item number 4, parking on West Street, proposed ordinance amendment to be discussed under the 8th order of business. Item number 5, ambulance purchase negotiations. Ambulance in question was reviewed by the fire department personnel on February 4th, 2025. Do we want?
Nothing
Chief,
new on that.
nothing new.
At this point.
Okay.
It was just an update of
Yep.
where we were at.
Yep.
So.
And a community center grant, no new developments. We don't have any idea of when that grant may go through.
We have the grant.
We have the
just need
grant.
to do the work.
Just need the
That's all.
funds?
Yep.
Yep,
That's
okay.
all.
Well, we got the funds, right? We just don't
Yeah.
have the equipment.
No, we didn't get the funds. We don't get the funds, we get reimbursed. the funds.
Yeah, I know, but so what's,
We just need to buy the equipment
okay.
and get the other stuff done. Yes.
7th order of business, to take action on the following items of business as read by council chair. Item 25-22, order that the Fairfield Town Council hereby appoint Lindsay Brand to the Board of Assessment Review for a 3-year term expiring December 31st, 2028.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on Lindsay on the Board of Assessment Review? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous? Item 25-23, order that the Town Council hereby signs agreements with the Maine Department of Transportation regarding overweight limit permits for upcoming project number 27498.00, and authorize the town manager and/or road commissioner to sign all corresponding documents and negotiate bonds if required.
So moved.
Second.
And you should have packets on that if we have any discussion.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
Exactly where is this project going to take place?
Interstate 95 southbound, covering the towns of Augusta, Benton, Fairfield, Oakland, Sydney, and Waterville. So it's a ultra-thin bond-wearing course, so it's pavement. Chances are, it's not going to happen when the roads are posted, and they're not going to need any of this. This is typical standard language that happens with a DOT project that involves a municipality in which they could potentially going over posted roads. But usually, roads are not still posted. with
So
this.
does it include the ramps?
I don't know. I mean,
think so.
it may. And so this is ultra-thin bonded wearing course. So don't picture it to be anything greater than that skinny mix that they put on Western Ave a couple of years
skim.
ago. Yeah, it's just a skim. So a lot of this areas have been paved recently on the interstate, because this is southbound. But there are wheel ruts, you'll notice, in a lot of this new paving, and I think they're coming in to fill those.
Okay. So probably not the ramps.
Probably not, but you never know.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions, any further discussion? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Unanimous. Item 25-24, order that the Fairfield Town Council hereby considers the creation of an ad hoc building committee to explore options for a new public safety building.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
When will we do that?
Let's just,
You want me to read my proposal
As to what?
to the ad hoc committee? If everyone should go receive the ad hoc committee
Yep.
memo
Oh, yeah.
proposal.
yeah. I don't think we need to read
And it
it.
says
No.
posted by 2/13, and then consideration March 2025 is kind of open-ended at the moment. Just probably allowing us to have some applications and also depending on what our schedule
And
is.
just in case too, if we need to extend it too.
Right.
Because I know last time we only got 5 members, because on this it says 7. So we can stop at any time.
Right. But it's 7 with you.
Correct.
Because you'll be chairing
And plus, I'll be asking the advice from each department head on, when we get there, on space utilization on the departments.
So
So,
it's one council member?
yes.
Well, it's limited to 2. There could be 2. So we'll post the application hopefully tomorrow, and then we'll report back in March on what we have.
Is
for
there any,
applicants.
like my mission, any, I should add anything, or was that mission correct? Because I know I sent this to Michelle asking, and Brittany, if I need to add anything, everything's all correct.
I believe that is plenty to start,
Yeah.
to start the
Because
exploration.
we always could add later too, so just in case we find out what we actually need first, the steps, and see how far we get, so.
Yeah, I think one of the things that the committee should have is the available land that the town has.
Yes.
So make sure you have that. But other than that, I think it's good.
Yep, and we have the RFPs for design and cost already in the mission as well,
Yep.
so I think you're well covered. We just need qualified citizens to please
Yep.
apply. This is going to be a very, very important
Let me
building committee.
read the qualifications.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, knowledge and background in construction, a citizen of Fairfield, knowledge of environmental or occupational safety, engineering, and flexible of time.
And that would be knowledge of engineering, not an engineer.
Right, yeah,
correct?
no, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's excellent. We need it. We need
Okay,
it quick.
good luck with it,
Yep.
Peter.
Any more comments, any questions? All those in favor? You're going to be,
I don't have to, can I vote for my own committee? or-
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I do.
Okay.
So it'll be unanimous. Okay. 8th order of business, council workshop and other business. Discuss proposed amendment for public safety ordinance and parking. That would be, I believe, West Street that we're talking about.
We have a memo from Chief Gould, and he is here to discuss his proposed amendments with you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Director Williams would love to be here tonight, but he's napping. So we decided to just do the entire downtown. We went over every single street that was within the, what do you call it, the downtown,
District?
just, yeah, this side of the interstate. We did find some confusing wording in the policy that we thought needed to be removed. I think If you go through the mock-up that we have, it pretty much explains it.
Primarily page 4, for those of you following.
As an example, number 1, we decided to remove, or we thought it would be appropriate for you to remove, on the westerly side of Main Street from a point of Summit Street northwest, intersection of Main and Summit Street, no parking is standing. We couldn't figure out really what that meant. But we did figure out that there were 2 parking spaces there. And there's been no issues with the parking in that area, so we thought that should be deleted. And then the rest is just cleaning up some language. For instance, Main Street from the Waterville line into town, a lot of that is a bicycle lane now, so we wanted to make sure that nobody was parking inside of the bicycle lane.
Or driving down it,
Yes, correct.
which I've seen already.
I'm sure. And to have people park there would be a danger. So that cleans up a couple of the other sections in here. We did find a lot of areas that were mismarked. Some were marked no parking that were not in the ordinance and probably shouldn't have been. And some were marked, were not marked. Signs have been knocked down over the years. Some signs were completely obliterated. We couldn't read them at all. But what we did do on West Street was recommend that we have it no parking from, I believe it's School Street, all the way down to Savage on the westerly side, which is the school side. The other side, I would recommend that we keep that the way it is. The side streets, which you will see on page, under section C, I'm lost right here, section C, which is on page 6. The northerly side of Summit Street, the northerly side of Flood and Kelly, which Flood is no longer, on the easterly side of West Street, and on the northerly side of Elm Street are no parking during the football season. So this will make all of those streets no parking on one side, but allow parking on the other. And it should free up the intersections. We think that will probably help tremendously. A lot of these areas were not signed. There was no signage in there. And we did, Director Williams did find some other signs in the area. For instance, West Street was signed all the way down to the end, no parking, and during this time period. So there are signs down in there that he can remove and put on these side streets, make sure that it's all properly signed. Next was High Street I wanted to bring up to you. The Catholic church up there years ago apparently was pretty busy and there was a lot of parking. I think it's kind of useless to have that stretch, no parking now. I think the residents should be allowed to park in front of their houses. I don't think it'll affect any of the traffic flow, and neither did Director Williams. And other than that, if you have any questions for me.
I actually have a question, and I guess I missed this when we went over it, but when you talked about northerly side of Flood and Kelly Street, and you said Flood's no longer there, there's no correction in that.
I thought of that too earlier when I was sitting there reading.
We need to fix that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll remove that from the...
Before we do, because if the council chooses to go forward with these corrections, it is subject to a public hearing, so we will have to advertise and post that, and we'll have to have the full mock-up version done for that.
Yeah.
So, West Street, there's no parking either side, correct?
No,
No,
Just-
no
just-
parking.
northerly side.
One side.
It'll be no parking one side, the westerly side, which is the school side. There'll be no parking from School Street all the way down to Savage Street.
And then the other side is parking?
Correct.
So let's go over that again.
Well, there's-
Westerly side is the side closest to the
To the school.
school, so no parking on
No
that
parking on
side.
that side.
All right, and there's Mamie Street there.
Yeah.
So when you're saying School Street,
It's what Bruce called School Street. It's the street that comes out of the school.
okay, and, because it's, I think,
I
I always
mentioned
called it
Mamie
Mamie Street.
Out of the
I thought
teacher
it was Mamie
parking
Street,
lot.
Well, yeah, that's
Yeah.
Mamie Street,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so,
Isn't there no parking on the opposite side of the fence now?
The opposite side of the fence now, you mean the easterly side?
Yeah.
easterly.
There's no
Rivers.
parking from November,
It's August until June, August
August and
15th to June 30th.
correct,
season.
yes.
So during school season, there's not gonna be any parking.
There'll be no parking, correct,
So basically, it's no parking at all on West Street
during that period,
during
correct.
that period.
August through June,
Yeah.
school season.
Yeah.
That's what you wanted.
So there should be an addition in here. So the easterly side of West Street from the intersection of Savage Street, I think it was to the intersection of Western Ave.
What number are you on, Michelle?
I'm on C3. I believe that was supposed to have been fixed because it's currently signed and it was when we redid that street.
That is improperly signed, and that's where we were gonna get the signage from.
Are they going to take the signs
We're gonna
down?
pull those
and
signs
keep it?
down and allow
Okay, so you're going to
parking,
keep
yeah.
that the same.
Correct.
So it's still to Elm Street. And then you're going to add the northerly side of West Street from Savage to what?
Westerly side,
side.
what we had said was School Street,
Okay.
and that's a mix-up in the names, apparently. Bruce,
School Street
Those-
is the parking lot where
Correct.
the end of the guardrails is, which is what the council had said at their last meeting.
Yes.
If you want to go to Mamie
That is
Street,
School Street.
that's the
there.
next one down.
Okay.
But council at the last meeting said end of guardrail.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
fine. You
All
don't
right.
need to go down by the superintendent's
No.
office.
Just by the
Okay.
guardrail over,
Yeah, that's
So,
good.
School Street to Savage
That's
is
good.
fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Chief, what's the fine for no parking?
$10, I believe.
$10?
Yeah, I'd have to look it up. I haven't read a parking ticket in about a year and a
$10.
half, but
$10.
parking ticket fines are, they're not in here. I think they're listed
They are
in another.
They're not in there, they're in
In
this.
another policy. When, on our parking tickets, it has the fine amounts written.
Yeah.
I think they really need to go up.
Boy, I tell you, you can tow somebody's car and they're not that upset, but if you put a $5 parking ticket on it, they're in my office Monday morning. But yes, I mean, I think maybe we should reevaluate parking fines. Those fines have been the same for, I'm gonna guess, 30 years.
Yep, $10. Unless it's a handicap parking violation, and then that's 200.
200 municipal, I think, is more state.
So where do they pay the parking tickets, I guess?
Good question.
They can either pay them at the police department, we'll take the money and receipt it out of the police department, and then send it up to the town office, or they can go straight to the town office and do it there.
Is there any retribution if they don't pay?
Yeah, we issue a written letter after 10 or 20 days. I think it's 20 days if they haven't paid it. And it gives them another 10 or 15 days to pay, and then they can be issued a civil citation to go to court.
Just gonna-
We try to avoid that at all costs because it's expensive on our part, because our offices have to go up to court for a $10 parking ticket. But I'm going to say that probably 95% of the people come in and pay.
No, Michelle, that $10 I saw it in here, right? So could we just vote on that now? Do we have to go back in and change it?
So the $10 is in the fee list that you approved when you did the council's administrative policies, but you could still vote to change that then, right? We could up that fee then too. At the same time that you do this,
Yeah.
you can change the fee at the same time.
So we can just come up with a fee number and, what do you think, Chief, it should be?
You're asking the wrong person.
I'm
I
gonna
have
say
no
20.
idea.
I'm gonna say
I think-
$20.
I'm gonna say 25, just more of a deterrent, and it'll cover the cost if we have to go after it. It's not a huge fee, but $25 is gonna stop somebody from parking where they're not supposed to.
We can find out what folks charge in the area. So
Right.
we've already started doing research on the building permit side of things that we were already
Right.
looking into, and we can look into that too.
Okay? Thank you. Any other questions for Chief?
Thank you.
Thank you,
Being
Chief.
complete.
Okay, discuss fire department staffing levels. Turn that one over to Michelle. Or
All
Charles.
right, so next chief.
Right.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So this, of course, is a holdover from your budget discussions about the possibility of doing a separate warrant article that isn't tied to the fire department, that addresses the possibility of adding 3 additional staff to the fire department's roster. And then that way, folks we could allow the community to make that decision. So what I've provided to you is what it would cost. So the estimated cost, if we hired a paramedic at what could potentially be future rates, and the cost associated with what it is for one employee. So as you'll see on the first document that you got this evening, the cost for an employee to include wages, overtime, we always estimate, highest amount. So if someone was to take a family plan, what that would cost, their retirement, Medicaid, Medicare, FICA. Any new employee, we would have to purchase radios for, uniforms for startup, including turnout gear, which of course in its first year is the most expensive turnout gear, lasts year after year. But the cost per employee is $152,996.51. And then, of course, the cost for 3 would be $458,989.53. And then it was requested Friday afternoon about, what would it entail if we changed our scheduling so that we were no longer a 56-hour week and went to a 42-hour week schedule. So Travis was able to just put up a little bit for you there. Switching to a 42-hour week instead of a 56 would require us at minimum to hire 2 new employees just to fill the shifts that would be required at a 42-hour week. That does not put any additional personnel on duty. That still is only 2 people per shift. And then Chief Leary also put together just some information for you about other departments. So the Skowhegan runs a 42. Does Winslow run a 42?
No, they do
Winslow
what
runs
we
a
do.
56. And just just some stats for you, basically, of what this year's budget for them is, next year's, the number of staff they have and their call volume. So like the town of Skowhegan has 14 positions. They run 3 per shift. Their calls are 1,270, whereas we have 7 people, typically 2 per shift, and our calls are 1,896. So Winslow does 10. They do 3 per shift. Their call volume is 1,586. So both of these communities, call volume is much less than ours, or less than ours, and is running with more staff. So it just is another example of why we continue to need more staff in our department.
So Skowhegan doesn't do any EMS calls, correct?
Yeah, they do.
They do.
They do, but they do a lot,
They
correct?
first respond like we do, but they only first respond to, I believe, Delta and Echo level calls. So it's, high risk, chest pain, difficulty breathing, not breathing, cardiac arrest, those types of high risk calls.
So not the lift assists and
Right.
sorts of things.
Yeah.
And Winslow staff, does that include their ambulance staff?
Yes, yep. So they run 3 full-time and then 1 per diem every day. So they actually have 4 people per shift if the per diem shift is covered. So.
Michelle, do you remember how much is paid out in overtime pay for the fire department?
Well, I know how much we budget, and I know how much I'm currently paying out. Give me 1 second.
What was that stuff? Can you repeat that?
How much money is being paid for overtime with the fire department? I'd like to be able to compare that to the cost of 3 new hires, because if we went to the 42-hour work week, then this would eliminate the overtime, right? Wait, I lost my train of thought, just a minute.
Technically, but you gotta add 2
Yeah,
people. 'Cause
it
you're
would
running an
eliminate-
8-man rotation.
Right, it would eliminate the need for 3 hours of overtime for each
Yeah,
employee.
it'd eliminate the built-in overtime
The
that we have
built-in.
now.
So how much is that?
Well, you can see in this, so just for one person, that's $7,205.70 per year.
For one person? Oh, yeah.
Okay,
And
so-
that budget's on a paramedic,
Right,
so.
right.
Right.
That's the word.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee
Highest
that if you
paid.
hired people, you would hire a
Have to be
paramedic.
That would be if we're looking at ambulatory staff.
So we're looking at
It's gonna be more than
$21,616.
that. It's gonna be more vacations and sick time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just the built-in
It's gonna
overtime.
be a lot more than that.
So, Are you all done, Steph?
I am, I'm still thinking.
So please.
Yep.
I'll just get closer.
So Skowhegan has 13 at 1.7 million proposed. If we do add 3, that's going to put us at 10 at almost 2 million. What's the difference there? What are we doing wrong by them saving 300,000 with more staff?
So it's, they don't have that built-in overtime with the 42-hour work week schedule. So that's a savings to them. And I don't know currently what their wages are either.
They're budgeting for firefighters, not for EMT.
They are required to be EMT now.
They are required EMT.
Yeah.
So that's quite a bit of,
So I still would like to know how much last year, how much did we pay
Overtime.
out for overtime pay for the fire department?
$107,000, 850.
Just about one person.
About one person.
Yeah.
So we were short-staffed last year, just as we are right now, so oftentimes that leads to quite a bit more overtime when your staffing levels. What we budget is $60,000 a year, and that's what we're budgeting this year for overtime. So typically, that covers your 3 hours per person in overtime, plus any overtime. So they may be off shift, but that doesn't mean that the call ends just because their shift ends at 7. So you still have to bank on overtime. But we do budget for the fact that we have 3 hours in any given week that we pay at overtime rates.
The other item that Chief Leary said was that, the very last sentence, this is in fact a very common reason why employees leave to go to another town that offers the 42-hour week. Is this?
Well, is it the opposite, Chief Larry? Do they prefer the 56-hour week, or do they leave for the 42-hour
They
week?
leave for the 42.
They leave for it.
Yeah, because it's less hours,
So the
less
other
days
thing,
per month, basically.
the other thing that I floated to the town manager was possibly a 3-on, 3-off rotation, which would be 12-hour shifts.
Yeah.
No 24-hour shifts. It would still require that same as a 42-hour work week.
Yeah.
That might be something we could float as well. Your overtime again you'd have AB shift working 48 hours one week and CD at 36. So you're still going to average about 44 hours a week per employee instead of 42. But you're not going to have that overnight, 24-hour need.
Yeah.
It will be covered with the same staffing. Of course, if you want to get to 3 per shift, you're still looking at additional 4 people.
So if there are other fire departments doing the 42-hour work week, are they doing like what Tim said, the 3-on, 3-off?
No, they're doing the 24-hour shift.
They are doing 24 hours.
I don't believe currently there's, other than per diems, there's probably nobody doing 12-hour shifts other than per diem staff.
So what's in our collective bargaining right now, the shifts? Is it
This
56?
56-hour work week.
So we have to,
Yeah, that would have to be negotiated, yeah.
right.
so
And they work 24-hour shifts. It's kind of it's like a 3-week cycle
Yeah.
that they cycle through, and they've got 2 weeks where they actually work 2 days.
Yeah.
And then they've got that 3rd week where they work 5 or something like that.
Yeah.
It's a lot of strain on, and a 24. That's why I floated possibly a
other
12-hour
12s.
shift where, you work 7 to 7, you go home at night.
Yeah, yeah.
And then somebody else comes in and works a night shift 7 to 7, but they're not stuck 24 hours. The mills run that, and that might be a better way to float. And maybe we don't need the bunkhouse if we're not staying 24 hours. Just an idea.
So, we are currently understaffed at the fire department. If we wanted to put 3 more people on, or 2,
Yep.
and we don't fill those positions, how would the current staffing situation work with a 42-hour week? It wouldn't work.
We can't.
You can't.
You have to have, so in order for the 42-hour work week to work, you have to have 4 operating shifts.
So you would need to increase your
yeah,
staffing
yeah,
with 3 more people.
Well, we would have to,
Two.
2. Yeah, to go to the 42-hour work week.
What about the utility position then?
That's just the 40-hour week, so that would have to be added to as well.
Or incorporated?
Or rolled into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what you would have to do, in order to change the schedule, you would have to hire the people first.
Exactly.
And then renegotiate.
But it has to go
Then-
through the contract.
Then it would still have to go through contract negotiation.
And Chief, if you could just kind of elaborate for people at home.
Sure.
So I think you would maintain that we are protected right now, whether we are at the best level we could be. I think you're still,
Right.
people should feel safe.
Yep.
But I think this comes about from our audit. So if you could explain where these numbers are coming from. One of the things of looking at what guidelines are, but also looking at what OSHA guidelines are, which is where we're probably
Sure.
lacking.
Yep. Yeah, so right. So basically, our staffing levels and our call volume are just very different. They're not close together when compared to other departments. The 2 in, 2 out rule that Council Townsend was referring to is a BLS, Bureau of Labor Standards standard, and that entails 2 people. For every 2 people that go inside, there has to be 2 people outside ready to rescue the first 2 people that go in. One of those people can be like an incident commander, so that you can do like kind of dual roles. So typically when we arrive during the day, if I'm in the office and our utility guy is, we cover that 2 in, 2 out rule. But the problem is at night when I'm gone and nobody else and the day guy's gone, we're back down to just 2 people, and we wait for call company people who could be coming from Benton or Bear Mountain Road, or so there can be a very long delay. So that's the 2 in, 2 out rule. NFPA recommends 4 people minimum staffing for all full-time fire departments. Obviously that's a recommendation. I think they actually recommend like 10 firefighters on scene within the first 12 minutes or something like that. Don't quote me on that because it's probably wrong. So that's kind of where those numbers come from. The audit report, they suggested going to 4 full-time staff, but that was also considering starting a transport service as well. So we would have the ability to cover 2 ambulances due to our call volume. So that's where that recommendation also included that aspect of the staffing levels.
Thanks, Chief.
Yep, absolutely.
So how many people do you have on call right now, your on-call staff?
I think we have 14 on the roster, but probably like 4 active people.
Is there a stipend for them?
Yeah, they get paid hourly when they come out.
What's their hourly rate?
It varies anywhere from minimum wage to, I think top pays like right around $20 maybe, if I recall correctly. It depends on training and if they're an EMT or not, so on and so forth.
Has anyone ever considered increasing that with?
Yeah, we've talked about it, yeah. Unfortunately, it's just such a huge commitment. In order to be, to be able to really do stuff on the fire ground, you have to be certified, right? So that's a ton of training to become certified. And it's just a huge commitment for people.
Now that's basic, right?
Yeah, basic firefighter, yeah.
And you guys can train your own staff?
Yep.
So it's
Yeah,
not.
we do a program every year. Yep. But it takes us 6 months to do the program.
But it would be worth us pay for that.
Oh, yeah, and we do, yeah.
But, I mean, really,
Yeah.
4 active volunteers, you had a 30-man volunteer when I looked at the audit,
Oh, yeah.
and not being utilized, and part of the audit recommendation was to up our stipends, pay for the training.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'd rather pay a lot more money to get the additional people to show up and reward them for showing up.
Sure.
Than say, well, there's just too big of a commitment. Well, it's a big commitment if you're not going to get paid. People don't do anything for nothing anymore. So, I mean, as part of the staffing, regardless of where we go, everybody relies on those volunteers.
Yeah.
They're not truly volunteers anymore. We got to pay for them.
Right.
So that's something we have to look at as well.
Yep. No.
How do we entice more people, what's it gonna cost to train them? Let's pay them when they get the training.
Yep.
Let's pay to train them. And then if we're hurting for firemen and EMTs and paramedics, you know, do we have to talk to KVCC and have them start a course for paramedics? Because we can say, okay, we're going to approve. Let's,
They already have.
okay, so again, why don't we entice them like we do with the police officers to go to academy? Why don't we pay for the paramedic training?
Yeah, we can. and that's
It's not a lot of money.
No, it's like 15,000 to take the paramedic course. But it's a year and a half, it's 18 months.
But it's worth the investment if they're not out there, because the longer all the communities go with a lack of staff, all we're doing is fighting for personnel.
Sure.
And driving the labor rate through the roof.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if we don't take action on it and be the first to spend the money on the training,
Yeah.
we can talk about staffing all day long. They're not out there, or we're not paying enough money, they're not going to come here.
Right.
So that's got to be a huge factor on it.
And you focus those 18 to 30-year-olds.
Absolutely.
I think that's a big part of it, and starting that career. So
I mean, just 92,000 with Cadillac benefits. You're talking $150,000 with everything involved. That's a nice job.
Yeah, Michelle, can we do that?
We do what?
Like the PD does, right? If you have another agency wants to buy out a police officer, would it, and the fire department would be the same way, could we contract them to stay for 3 years?
So you could try to do that with your employees. So the piece with the police department is actually under state law. So that if we fund someone to go to the academy and another municipality takes them from us, they have to reimburse us. That depreciates over time based upon their graduation date. We tried putting legislation in for that to happen with fire departments as well last year, and it didn't go anywhere. I've heard that it might be back on the table, but I'm not sure.
There are some towns that do it.
But so you
internally.
could try to do a contractual obligation with a new hire that, yes, you would fund them, but they would guarantee that they had to stay. But what do you do if they don't? And then the course of going to court. One of the things we have done recently is we did join a program that allows them to get a discounted rate because we will help up, I can't remember what the exact wording is, but because we help sign up for this program, if they're increasing their education in medical fields, they're eligible for scholarships and grants up to like $4,000 or $5,000 and that kind of stuff. So we did that a couple of years ago, all of those different things. And usually we also provide them with the flexibility so that if they're in training, they may also actually be with a fire truck and still on duty at the same time. So we've done those things, but we could look into paying for that. But like Travis said, we've never budgeted the $15,000 to pay for somebody to go to paramedic school or that kind of stuff. It's not anything we've done. I think your training budget for the fire department is, I don't know, something like, well, it's $4,000 a year is what we currently budget for training.
We're losing that.
But that's more in-house training as well, correct?
Yeah, that's in-house training.
That's any training.
That's any training.
It's any training.
Any
So if they
class.
want to go to a training class somewhere, we have $4,000 for the entire department.
And we're only pulling in like 5,000 in revenue on our fire training facility, right?
That's separate. It's a completely different thing.
Same department.
Same department, but different revenue streams. So that
Yeah, I
$5,000 in revenue is for people who sign up for classes that we provide.
Right.
As opposed to this $4,000 is for us to pay for
train
our
our
staff
people.
to go
Yeah.
to other places. And that's a placeholder until that gets going, because we have $5,000 in expenses for the training facility and $5,000 in revenue, just so it becomes a wash. Could be more, could be less once it gets up and running.
But we don't utilize it.
Well,
So what are your plans on the training center this year? Do you have any planned classes or anything like
Yeah,
that?
so we'll do another Fire 1 and 2 program like we have been since we built it. And we train down there all the time. Our guys go down. We're trying to get more agencies to use it. Waterville's used it several times. The WMD team has contacted about using it out of Waterville. We're also working with the Skowhegan Voc School, and that will probably be a conversation later on. They're actually looking for a home because they just started a program. And they're currently, I don't know if they're renting or just being allowed to use KVCC classroom up in the Hinckley campus right now. So they're looking for a home and possibly building a classroom for us. But that's kind of a down the road project at the moment.
So we have to hire EMT firemen.
Yes. Yep.
So if somebody's just basic, they cannot get a job anywhere.
No, what do you mean basic?
Basic firemen.
Yeah, I don't know of any departments that are not requiring a main EMT basic license. There may be Lewiston, but I think they actually require it now.
That's for
I mean,
full-time
if you just have
employees.
Full-time, yeah.
Volunteer fire departments, that you can be a basic
Yeah.
firefighter, yeah.
Yeah.
But contractually, our union contract requires that they be also not only basic fire within 6 months of hiring, but also EMT.
So the reserve staff can be just regular
Yeah,
firefighter?
yeah, they can just be, they don't have to have an EMT license, yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, full-time wise,
Now,
yeah.
paramedics and EMTs, obviously, that's the difference in training,
Sure.
obviously.
Yeah.
And what about the cost level?
So a basic class, I think is, I don't want to say off the top of my head. I'm going to guess around $1,500 to $1,600. Paramedic classes anywhere from $13,000 to $15,000.
So to be a basic EMT, that's what you're looking for, EMT fireman? Or you're
Yes.
looking for?
Yep.
See, that's what I think he
Yep.
was looking at and talking about.
Yep.
Because I
No,
looked at.
no, no. If we're down the road, we're looking at ambulance and paramedics.
Yeah, we're gonna have, well,
They don't exist. I'll pay the money
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know,
to
but
get
that's,
them.
yeah.
Otherwise, I'm creating positions is just going to cause overtime
Right,
and per
right.
diem help, and
Right.
and
Yeah, we might
everybody's
as well.
fighting for
Yeah,
them. So
we want to train them if we're going to.
Yeah,
own them,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we can get him in here anyway.
Yeah. They're
and
actually
bump 'em
by
up.
union.
Absolutely.
By contract, they're actually required to become an advanced EMT. So that's within a year of the next available class, because right now KVCC is struggling with providing the classes.
Because there's no interest, is that?
They can't find instructors.
Oh.
Yeah, and coordinators. They did just hire one like yesterday or the day before, so we're in hopes that things are going to smooth out now. But so yeah, they're required to become advanced within a year of the next available class, and then we would obviously have to pay for that because it is required. We have two that are taking the class right now that we actually got grants for. That got those covered fully by grant. So.
This is probably stuff that you're doing, but I would, you do a great job of getting grants. I think it's been a strength of yours, but I think putting together a concerted program, starting at the high school level, VOC, KVCC,
Yeah.
recruiting those younger individuals and setting up a training program, and with knowing what they might get for training.
So we-
which I'm sure you're probably already working on.
Yeah,
I think
so we
that's the
started
key
a
going
junior
forward.
firefighter program back up about 5 or 6 years ago now. When I started, I was a junior. I started at 14 years old, and so I've been at that fire station since 1997. So, and several, I bet there's probably, right off the top of my head, at least 6 or 7 that were in that program that are now full-time somewhere within the state, local areas. So the vocational school in Waterville, Mid-Maine Vocational, had a firefighter program and an EMT program. Last year, they unfortunately dropped the fire program. They still maintain the EMT program. That's why Skowhegan started a firefighter program this year. They also have an EMS program. So that's why we're really working close together with them. Because we're also working with Mid-Maine to try to get them to come back, or at least allow these area schools to have that availability. The problem is that there's scheduling conflicts from this group of schools down here versus the Skowhegan schools. So if we can get that in place, and if we can have 10 to 12 high school juniors and seniors a year go through those programs, our hopes is we actually had a meeting with KVCC about possibly seeing what we can do to bring fire science here as well. So then them juniors and seniors can enroll. They can get their Fire 1 and 2 their junior year, they can get their EMT Basic their senior year, and then if they could go to fire science classes right here at KV, they can get an associate's degree in fire science, and they can get a paramedic degree if they wanted to, and/or their paramedic license, and hopefully flood the area with available available workforce, basically. So that's the goal, but obviously there's a ton of moving parts to that.
So that's a marketing ploy that we have to take advantage of.
Yeah.
And again, when we start throwing numbers together, like a $92,000 salary,
Yeah.
every high school kid
Yeah.
should know what it's going to pay and how long
Sure.
how long does a paramedic class take to get?
18 months right now.
So you got a school at 17, 18 years old, and you're 19, 20,
Yeah.
coming out as a paramedic at 92 grand.
Yeah.
That's a no-brainer for a lot of kids, just like we talk trade school.
Yeah.
This is a massive need.
Yeah.
So it's up to us to educate. You know, we don't need every kid going to school for marine biology
Sure,
at
right.
$200,000 debt, $400,000 debt, and they come out making 40 grand crying that we got to pay for their college debt because we didn't do our due diligence to
Yeah.
get our own kids in the junior fire program or to teach them that in a year and a half you can be a paramedic making $100,000 a year with fantastic benefits, and it fills a civic need. We need those kids.
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
think we have to come up with a plan
Yeah.
to help push this at the school level. We're the ones paying for it. We need it.
Just for a teeny clarification, this
Yeah.
is a rate at a lateral transfer of someone who has at
yeah,
least 4
I,
years of experience.
I understand.
But
By the,
it would
by
be
the
a
time
little
these
bit less
kids
than
get their
that.
degree, it's going to be
By the time
there.
they get through, it probably will be
Yeah.
that rate.
Travis, the only other thing I want to bring up on the
Yep.
data we have, so we're using our combined Benton-Fairfield numbers.
Correct.
And then we're showing, you know, what Delta cost is for just Fairfield. Well, we are a combined service, so even though Benton's Delta cost is not in our taxes, it's in our overall fire budget between both towns. And I've been against even looking at ambulance for a while. But when I start looking at the numbers and they continue to go up, and then I add in Benton,
Right.
it makes more and more sense. We're probably paying over $300,000 a year between the two towns.
I think it's 330 something. Yeah.
So, and we're servicing 1,896 calls, but 23 to 25% of those are Bentons.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense for us to not add Benton into our total factor here. We're showing revenue, which we'll address at another council meeting, that we received from Benton, which is getting out of whack. But that needs to be taken into account. That $330,000 that we're spending on Delta, there's your 3 people. And if we do go to an ambulance service at some point, there's your revenue at
Right.
$900,000 to $1.1 million a year, even if only 60% of it's collectible.
Right.
And more than pays for everything. The problem is, can you get the staffing?
Right. Yeah. And that's a huge question. Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Oh.
and that's something we're going to have to rely on you on.
Yeah.
We look at the recommendations. They do include the ambulance service.
Sure.
In that recommendation.
Yep.
In the audit.
So for us to talk, well, we need 3 people or 4 people. Let's just look at what the recommendation says. Writing's on the wall. Delta goes up again. They're not an option anymore. They're not a viable option. But you got to tell us you can get the staff, or
Yeah.
we can pay to train to get the staff.
Right.
So 18 months sounds like a nice option to me.
Yep. No, definitely.
Gives you time to
And that
plan.
was, you know, that's where we were going with that whole audit thing, you know, and the need for staffing. And I mean, you know, if we could have 4 people per staff and not have to transport, then that would be great, you know, but the cost of everything is just so expensive, you know, and that's why all the other departments have gone to it. So, but yeah, no, we.
The only way to offset that cost is to transport.
Right, exactly, right.
And you may be able to,
Yeah.
honestly, we might be able to lower our budget.
It's, the potential's there, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
And that's
depending
what we
on
have-
the call volume does. There is some legislation coming out about Medicare reimbursement increasing this year, so that's a big, you know, hopefully that goes through because they are extremely low on their reimbursement rates.
And hopefully the 6% tax doesn't go through.
Right, yeah. That, from what I gather, that will not affect municipal departments, but I'm not sure how that works. I don't know enough about it, but.
So, do you think we can do this with 1 ambulance?
To start.
We can start with 1 ambulance, yes, but I will tell you with certainty, we will be giving away probably 20% of our calls.
My
because
biggest
we're-
concern is not giving away the calls, it's getting coverage.
Well, and that's just, and we don't know if the coverage will be there, to be honest.
Because, I mean,
Yeah.
if we kick out Delta, they don't have to come here, right?
Yeah, no,
And if Winslow's busy,
right.
they can't come, and if there's a
Yeah.
wreck and you're out on the back road, what are we going to do?
No, right, yeah, it's definitely a real thing to think about, for sure.
Do we have to pay for the calls that we can't service? Is there a fee
That's
charge?
potentially, yeah, that's potential too. Yeah, they could charge us every time they come.
So we could lose the transport fee and get a charge on top of it?
Yeah, potentially. Typically, our mutual aid does not charge, but, I don't know what Delta will do. I can't speak for them.
Winslow don't charge, Waterville at all?
No, they only charge for paramedic intercepts. So if they request a paramedic intercept, I think it's $150 maybe. I could be wrong on that. But that's the only thing they charge for. Regular mutual aid, they don't charge each other for.
For transport?
Yeah.
And that's a negotiated piece, right? That's not you would know that when you went into it.
Right.
So we currently have situations in which we are busy, Delta's busy, and Winslow has to go cover a call, or Waterville has to go cover a call, or somebody else has to cover a call, not just for fire, but also for ambulance. The annual report that Delta sent that was given to all of you, there's a list in there of mutual aid calls where they had to have other people come and cover for them. So
Oh, yeah,
that's a
it's-
piece that you have to work that out. Mutual aid agreements are done, they're done in writing. We don't have mutual aid agreements for EMS because we've never needed one. The entire region hasn't needed one because Delta's always covered everything quite seamlessly, but now that has all changed. So they have agreements amongst themselves for providing mutual aid, and that would be a conversation you would have to have. But that's still quite a ways out, right? So just because you decide to hire 3 people doesn't inherently mean that you would start an ambulance service. That becomes a different conversation. Because if you do go with an ambulance, remember, you could hire 3 people next year. You're still going to need 3 more the following year. It was done and broken down this way and started this conversation because you could ramp it up so that it wasn't everything all at once, so you had enough staff to do what you needed to do and to bring it in gradually so it wasn't a full hit. Nobody wants to know that you're going to just all of a sudden pick up $1 million in a department. So that kind of piece, so.
And then we got to make sure, too, we keep the individuals, too.
Yeah, so,
Some areas, they come here for nice pay, then the other areas saying, oh, increased pay, they leave. So we got to make sure we're,
We're competitive.
so it's 405,000, correct? That's without Cadillac's benefits for the 3, correct?
It's $453,989.53. So you might as well say $460,000
For 3 paramedics.
for 3 paramedics.
yeah.
3 paramedics with
experience.
4 years of experience.
Yeah. The
Okay,
chances
so
of
that's high end, but
likelihood of
But
happening.
what I didn't want to do is give you a piece that says, this is what we're looking to do, but we're only going to hire the very lowest of the lowest educated and make sure they don't have any experience, right? So you don't want to put out an ad and have somebody come apply and have them be a paramedic and say, sorry, we can't afford you, you just go. So you want to think about it that way. So this gives you.
But we're not going to hire paramedics unless we're talking transport service.
Right.
There's a
Well,
need.
we currently employ paramedics.
Yes, but we could hire firemen,
potential,
EMTs.
You could. And that's what you could advertise for. But we already have it within our union contract that if you have a paramedics license, you get a stipend. You get a $3.50 an hour stipend if you have a paramedics license for your education. So if you're going to come to us and you're going to be educated, we're going to pay you for that. Or you could take less educated people and know that the more educated people are just going to go work for somebody else. I mean, so you don't want to limit yourself to say that, sorry, you're too educated to come work here. So when you put that budget together.
I want the best of the best. Right, but I'm just looking at offset costs. So even at that 450, we eliminate the 330, we're paying Delta now, you're at 120.
Right.
And you got a cost of an ambulance, but transport service is going to bring more than enough revenue to cover that cost, offset that cost, put it in capital reserve so that you're never paying for that next ambulance. It's already there.
Right, you pull that out of.
It will take care, even at a 60% billable rate, it's more than feasible. It's just, you got to say you can staff it.
Right.
So if we need the 3 staff, let's look at the whole kit and caboodle.
Which is what we kind of talked about the last couple of years, going down this road.
Yeah.
But I think the other part of it is Delta. If you're not able to staff up, then you need Delta to do everything. I mean, Delta is going to go to every lift. Delta is going to do everything that they need to do. So we're not looking at our our guys being stretched. So, I mean, you're not going to have the 1,800 calls, because you're going to reduce that significantly with just having Delta do a bunch of those calls.
Oh, I think we're still going to go. How do we not go?
Well, that's what you're looking at, right?
Right.
Because if we're limited on staffing, we may be forced. So I think this is a good discussion.
So the reason this is here this evening was because the council discussed about putting this on just as a separate article for the money appropriation for the possibility of hiring 3 new staff at the fire department. So you could do this as a complete standalone article. You do have to put a dollar amount to it. The budget committee would also have to weigh in on that article, and if it passes, great, we would go forward to get 3 new staff. If it does not, then we would continue with the status quo that we have right now.
I have a question on the show. This cost, is that an increase? Because I saw it in the review. This is $2,000 something more, the $4,058, and there was only $24,000.
I think they were
23
using
level.
23-year-old wages.
Yeah.
Okay.
This has maybe what might be some wages that we're going to be discussing at the end of the meeting.
Just in case residents read online that amount, and we mentioned this amount,
Yeah.
so I just want to mention that.
Yes, that would have been 23 wages.
What's that?
In fact, this
Which
is
cost
even
you
more than when I presented this 6
That
months
right
ago.
there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here is 22, 24.
Because 6 months ago, it's more than what it was 6 months ago when I presented
Okay.
it to you. Plus, too, remember, our health insurance went up 9% this year. So it's all the anticipated increases throughout the course of the 25-26 budget season is what's included in that number.
Travis, if
Yes.
they gave you 3, what would be your answer to say, how long would it take you to do that?
To do
To
what?
fill those positions, knowing what you know?
We already have one open now.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't know, honestly. We've had an open position on and off for the last 2.5 years.
Which is why the overtime has been so high.
Right.
Yeah, because it wasn't that
I
high.
know that Waterville just hired, and they had 19 applications, and I've had my position posted for almost a month, and we've had 2.
They're paying more?
I think a lot of it is the schedule, and it's just, some people just want to go to a bigger, busier department, and there's nothing we're ever going to do to compete with that, Some people just like.
So I guess refresh me, if you get 3 more, can you go to the 42?
No,
Not.
It has to be in the.
because we have to have
Go back
4
to you.
shifts. Well, actually, 3/6.
Should be able to.
Could.
We could, but we'd still have the same amount of staff we do now. We would just have 4 shifts. We wouldn't increase any.
Same amount of staff per
Per
shift.
shift, yes.
Yeah, per shift, yeah.
Yeah. So we wouldn't be increasing any staff per shift. So, and that's the ultimate goal, is to get more help on, we have people, people respond to all types of calls, overdoses, assaults by themselves in the middle of the night, and not many departments do that. Actually, probably extremely rare that departments do that.
So one of the reasons we are having this conversation was because of the $460,000 price tag for 3 more firefighters. That is adding quite a bit more to the town's budget.
Oh, sure.
And by putting it into a referendum and having the townspeople vote, that would be a step in the right direction. We'll know where they want to go. The downside is, we'll be lucky if we get 50 people at the town meeting. It's not really a real picture of our town.
Downside is you're adding 33% to the budget,
And that, too.
and that's not fiscally responsible on my end. I can't be in favor of adding 3 staff at this point until we're ready to make the full jump, and I'm already there. Because I think when you add in the costs that Benton's paying and the revenue generated, it's going to bring our budget down instead of up.
And I've heard people saying that they want to have that service provided to them, and to be understaffed is a risk that even though they work very hard, may not always happen. So if we put it as a referendum,
Now, how are we understaffed any more than we have been for the last 50 years?
that's what I just said, we are understaffed.
But we're not
people
any
still-
more understaffed than we were last year or 50 years ago. We've had the same staff,
And the call volume
volume's-
has been increasing.
and we've added Benton to our roster at 25%. And they don't pay 25%.
I think we should leave it up to the townspeople on whether or not to have three more staff people for the fire department.
So you want to add an extra warrant item?
Yes, I do. And let the townspeople decide. Because it's a valuable service, and we are an aging population in Fairfield.
We just can't afford it, Steph. We just can't afford it.
That would be up to the townspeople to decide.
Because if you need the ambulance to offset it, and
Michelle?
So you don't have to make an absolute decision this evening. What I do need you to tell me whether or not you're in favor of it enough for me to continue to go forward so that the Budget Committee weighs in on it. Remember that your warrant, once it's drafted, is subject to a public hearing. That public hearing is held in a time frame in which you could change the warrant. So you're not set to it, and you can always make that adjustment. The issue is that if you don't put it in, there'll be no debate, right? There'll be no conversation about it. There'll be no conversation had, not a town meeting, not by anybody. But if you put it in, you do leave that up to the townspeople to have that debate and have that conversation with you. That's all really where we're at.
How many people do we average at town meeting?
Depends, but I think the last one, it was 53 people.
I'm not willing to put that up to 53 people and get 26 votes or 27 votes, and it passes. I'm not there. That's just my way in.
So what are you in favor of?
I think we need to get to that ambulance service. It's not a this year item. We're in budget process right now, and we've got to have this ready for the next week or two for Budget Committee, and we're going to vote on it in May. We're not there. The staff's not there. It's not available. So I think, by all means, like we just discussed, we need to figure out a way to get the staff. We need to figure out a way to pay to train to make sure we get the staff. And then we just need to do it when Travis says, I can get the staff, and we can make this work. And even if he needs the additional 3, in a year or two after that, it will fund itself. I'm not looking at adding $500,000
When
to
the
a
audit-
budget that's already bloated.
When the audit was done, and we had this discussion, when we talked about having our own ambulance service and making a profit, chances are we are not going to make a profit. We had an email from the head of I can't remember his name, and he's at the state level for emergency ambulance. I can't remember his name. Anyways, he said, you can't count on making a profit with an ambulance service. And that's because what's billed doesn't always come back as at 100%, which you alluded to, Tim. So for us to go
But it
on...
offsets the cost of adding it, stuff. You may not make a profit. I think you will make some. I think you will end up making about 20%. But it's going to offset the cost of the personnel and the equipment. And right now, we're spending $330,000, and it's gone. We're paying a private entity to take care of their books. That's not what towns are supposed to do.
And I agree with you. I agree with you on that.
And I would
But
totally...
I don't want to think I'm going to make a lot of money with an ambulance.
Well, that's why, so when I asked Michelle, what's Delta pull in out of Fairfield alone? Their estimate's $900,000. That's Fairfield alone. No, and I know it's not all collectible. That's why I said even if 60% is collectible, you add in Benton's $250,000 because we're one department. Now you're talking $1.2 million. Even if half of it comes in, there's $600,000 in revenue. We're looking at $460,000 in salaries now, $50,000 a year to buy an ambulance and continue to maintain it.
3, that's for 3, and
Yeah.
you'd need to 6, you'd have to double that.
Well, we need 3 to keep current staff and add that service. We need 3 to get that second ambulance and get to where we want to be at 4 per shift. But
But it's been
we've got to
2.5
take,
years and you still can't find one.
Right, that's one of the things I look at.
but you've got to take baby
Time
steps
frame.
to get there. You're looking at a 3 to 5 year plan, which is, this isn't a throw it in and add 3 people in 3 months. We're not there yet, but we need the plan. And I think that plan is in place. Now that we know what costs are, now that we know what revenues generate. I was with you. Waterville will tell you they make money. Winslow tells you they make money. Clinton advertises on their website that they make money, and Travis is the chief in Clinton.
I don't.
You know, not a lot of money, $130,000, but if it's accurate, they made $130,000 and paid for their staff and their equipment. And when we look at generating revenue, the only way we have to generate revenue is to tax property owners or get state revenue, or we find new people to move into town.
Which is kind of what we've been talking the last couple of years, so it's kind of interesting to hear, because we got beat up pretty hard on talking about this discussion over the last
did?
couple of years. So,
No.
Yep. So I just want to make that be known, that we have been discussing it for a couple of years on that land. I think it can actually pay for itself.
And if we can prove those numbers, put them on paper, make them transparent, that's going to change what happened in the last couple of years. It's all on how it gets presented.
Yep, same numbers, so.
It is, but we weren't looking at those offsetting costs. We weren't looking at the additional costs that Benton costs us, or adds
did,
into
actually.
the equation for
They
revenue.
were there. People
were.
just didn't look at
Well,
it.
then we didn't present
But
it
what-
properly.
But what you have to
You didn't
understand
read it
is,
right.
I'm still unclear as to what it is that you would like Chief Leary to do, because what he can't do is go out and recruit people to fill positions that don't exist. That's just not how things work in our world.
Well, we've got one we can't fill right now, so.
And we are working on that piece of it. And I think hopefully, once the new union contract is decided and we know what's happening, but that's the other portion, right? So you have a department right now that is completely in limbo and has been for the last 2 years, so much so that the last union contract was only 1 year long, because nobody knew what this community was going to do regarding this issue. And I think probably the sooner you make that decision, the better off we're going to be, because it will help with recruitment. People want to go places where they know what their job is going to be. They don't want to go work for an organization and find out their job within a year is going to be completely different and the last year's been a waste of their time. So it would be nice to know what those things are going to be and how we're going to go about doing that.
Well, here's a different option for you, because we have the utility position. And if we want to get to 3 per shift, then we change the utility to a full-time person, and we add 2. And that gets us to 9, and that gets you 3 per shift. And we base it on a fireman EMT at $130,000, but you're still looking at $250,000 that we don't have.
You could do the numbers that way, too.
Just another option. That's better than $500,000. And not adding any more staff per shift. It's just doing away with the utility. And then can you fill, we're already short 1, can you fill 2 more? I'm not there yet, so that's up to council. You want to make a motion?
And you don't have to make a decision tonight. Like I said, this is just one of those things. All I really want to know is, do you want me to broach this subject with the Budget Committee? Because the Budget Committee has to weigh in on every possible option that has to do with money when it comes to the warrant.
My opinion, yes. Let them weigh in on it, so I think that's part of the Budget Committee's responsibility.
That way, if it goes forward, we're prepared. If it
Right.
doesn't go forward, it's not for naught. It's
Right,
just it's there.
just to have the Budget Committee weigh in, and let them do their job. This is just my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be good to let them know what we're talking about and what we're thinking. And I wouldn't mind hearing their input on it as well. Because they are
Unfortunately,
citizens.
usually y'all meet together at the
Right.
same exact
Yeah.
time, so that might be a
Yeah,
great time
and-
to also continue this conversation.
Yeah.
Right.
So is that what you want, Matt?
I think it's just, I'd like to have I'm not sure where I think I'm very similar to you right now. I'm not sure where I stand, but I'd like to have the Budget Committee weigh in.
Staff here with Budget Committee.
I would like to have the Budget Committee be party to this, yes.
Matt?
Yeah, might as well, yeah.
Okay, I'm good. I guess you're good. I don't want 27 people voting us through.
I guess what is the budget committee going to do to make that happen?
I think if they recommend it, we have to take their recommendation and add
No,
another
we don't.
warrant.
No, we don't have to.
So,
Well, we should, I mean, if that's what we're weighing in
We
on.
can put it on the warrant, but we don't have to, then, as a council, we don't have to recommend it. That can be our decision about what our recommendation is on that article.
for clarification, when you have a budget committee in your community, they are required to make a recommendation on any money article that goes to town meeting. So they have to say whether they recommend or whether they don't recommend. And it's just a requirement under the law. We have had articles before that the council has recommended something, but the budget committee has not. We have had articles before where the council and the budget committee recommend two completely different numbers. But we have, if it's a money article under the law with a budget committee, they have to make a recommendation whether they're in favor, not in favor, one way or the other. So that's what they would have to do. So because the warrant, when it is produced for town meeting, is the town council's warrant. Nothing goes on the warrant unless the town council gives permission for it to go on the warrant.
Is it still going to be the same article, fire department? Or are we going to add a separate article?
We would do it as a separate article is what I would do,
I would do
because
separate.
then what happens is you could vote the department just exactly the way it is, and people could still want the fire department but vote against the 3 new staff. That's what I would recommend that you do, is that you do just a separate article, just the same as Delta Ambulance is a separate
But we could do
article.
one article where the budget committee recommends a higher amount with the 3 people included, and council recommends the lower amount, and the people can still have their say.
So, but what I would do is have the budget committee weigh in on this topic, and that way, if we have the budget committee's feedback on this topic, we can say whether or not they're in support of what that is. You change what that article looks like so too drastically, then the budget committee would just have to reconvene and discuss what it is that you have done. So, but that's just the reason why, and what we try to do is get the budget committee a one and done, so we don't have to keep asking those folks to come back. So that's all there is. So as I'm getting ready to schedule that meeting, which I'm hoping is going to be within the next 2 to 3 weeks, we'll just know that this is going to be part of their conversation, because it's not part of the actual budget sheets. They'll get this information, and they'll be able to have a conversation on that being a separate article as well.
Okay.
Right, and we don't even necessarily have the article yet.
Right.
Well,
You don't-
I need,
Just weighing in.
'cause I think I'm a little confused now on what's going on. So going with 3 people, right?
Yeah.
Without the ambulance, that's what we're
Right,
at?
this is just for 3,
Yes.
it would be written up as the fact that it would be, would the town raise and appropriate X number of dollars for 3 additional staff at the fire department?
Because currently they are understaffed, even with the empty position. And
That's the confusing part.
that is the.
Sure.
Because the recommendation is on an ambulance service.
Well, if that's what that's
On
a
the
different
audit.
question.
On the audit.
It says it right
The
there.
recommendation is by adding ambulatory.
So they said that they're short-staffed, period. By having an ambulance service, which we could service that we could provide, you would get the additional staff that you need anyway, but you would have the revenue that you generate to offset the cost of that staff. So they're understaffed, period. Regardless whether you get an ambulance or not, having 2 people on a shift, running the number of calls that they're running, on the types of calls that they're running at night, is not something that can be safe for an individual to go out on. And we have a lot of back-to-back calls, more so than I've ever seen in all the years that I've worked here. In the last 2 years, back-to-back calls have been astronomical.
Are the police going to come in and say the same thing when they've got one?
The police
One
has
young
more
man.
staff.
Yeah.
They run more staff on a shift.
They run one night person. They go to calls by themselves. Is Chief Gould guys going to come in and say, fire department's got it, I'm not going on a call by myself?
Oh, and they might.
The
They
other,
might. You run that risk everywhere.
yeah, and the other thing that we need to remember is the reason why the fire department is understaffed is because the money allocated to pay for more staff has never been put in the budget. So they have been working with the same number of staff since what, 1974?
Position, yeah.
And, times have changed, and that's one of the driving forces for me thinking that it should be its own article,
I almost think
because,
we need a PHP on staff to have the mental health calls, because that's what's changed. Population of the town hasn't changed. The call volume has changed because of the way the world is today.
Right.
That's just facts.
But that doesn't mean that they still have to operate understaffed because the budget doesn't allow for more people to work there in
I
the
just
fire
don't see-
department.
I don't see where it's understaffed with the same amount of people it's been since 1971, but that doesn't matter. I'm all for bringing it to the budget. Are we good?
I think we already,
Good.
We already did
kind of
that.
reset.
I know what I need to do, and if,
I don't think so.
Matt, if you have any other questions about how that works, just see me afterwards and I'll let you know.
Well, we got 3 that want to bring it for budget recommendations, so.
Yeah, and it's not even an article yet, just trying to get their
Right.
No,
feedback.
it's
from
just a
you.
Just a
conversation.
discussion.
We just bring it informational to the budget committee.
Yeah.
They want to bring it.
Knowledge is power.
Yeah,
All right. Leave it.
Can I ask a quick?
yeah, Travis, please.
I know we've talked about it in the past, and I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes, but there is a SAFER grant out there through FEMA, and that's something that I have actually applied for in the past. We weren't successful, but that's something that we could apply for again if you wished me to do that, and that could be to apply for the funding to hire. To get to 4 people per shift, and that would fully fund that for 3 years, and then it would be obligated on the town after that 3rd year. So that is an option as well, to explore that. I mean,
Heck yeah.
just because we apply for it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get it.
Is it a matching grant?
No, there's no matching.
That would be huge in the
They
transition
fund it
time.
for 3 years, and then
that'd be good.
And then and then it's on the town.
I would
has to fund it.
recommend,
It used to-
please apply
Yeah.
for it.
I'll do some research, and
It's free funding, and it gets us to that 3-year cycle where
Right.
I think we're really at.
Yeah, agreed.
So that if we can get that in place,
Yep.
by that point in time, we can figure out how to staff the
Right.
additional 4.
Yeah.
Because the grant money's going to be gone, so it's
Right.
one-time money, gives you 3 years to get our.
Yep.
And you're required, like it's,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
take it on they pay for so many years and you have to pay for so many years after that.
So I don't know what direction you need from, I say please.
Please.
File it.
I'll say please,
Okay.
file it too.
Please.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 3, discuss the annual letter to MSAD 49 regarding the Crawford Fund.
Your annual update of the letter that we'll be sending out. We had a good year. $73,609.88 is what they're eligible for next year.
Good.
I can tell you it's a bit disappointing though, because they were eligible for money last year and they never asked for any of it. So, I don't know why, but they didn't.
And part of the process, we also discovered, I think they have a secondary
They do.
fund. So they do pull back some, so they don't spend the whole amount every year. So when they do have a 0 year, like we did a couple years ago,
They had funding.
they had some funding.
So this is good. So as long as everybody's okay with this, then this will just
Yeah.
get mailed out to, well,
So is there a minimum balance we have to keep in that fund? Because I know we usually just offer the interest within that given year, but
I thought
I was just
so.
thinking a fund this large, why don't we have it in a fixed asset fund where we know the exact number every year rather than this variable rate where?
so it's been a conversation that we've had over the years. I couldn't remember.
Talked about last year, I'm like, love to see
think I
like
do
something for
have that
4%. Fine, we know what it's going to be every year.
I mean, we can put in a 10-year treasury rate and just take the interest out and give it to them, and it's always going to have
Right.
the same level of funding. I see some years there's nothing.
So a lot of it had to do with how it was invested when we rolled it over to First American. And we've had those conversations with them, but we could certainly have that conversation with them again. And the Crawford Fund usually kicks off our conversation with, we will be inviting the investment firm to come to a council meeting to have a conversation with you. So they should be coming hopefully within the next couple of months for us to have that conversation. And I think I had somewhere in my history a couple of years ago in the Crawford Fund, but I'll have to go back and look at it.
so.
when
I mean, the
it's
last
original.
couple of years were fantastic.
Right.
But 3 years ago, when you
It-
lost 100, you lost 10%.
Right.
Why, how does that happen?
Right.
Market crashed.
On it, but not if it's in a
Not if it's in a
fixed
fixed-
guaranteed account.
Right.
I just think it's such a big thing that they should rely on. And if they know the amount every year, it's much easier to budget on than And again, to your point, they didn't take anything last year. But if they get to the point where they rely on it, I'd rather see it in a fixed account where you know what you're getting every year, and the fund balance never goes away. It's always there, perpetual. So, no, it looks good to me, other than those questions. Anybody else?
Nope.
To discuss the letter to DOT regarding traffic issues on the Norris Rock Road and various intersections.
I would like to request that you table this to a discussion at your next meeting, because I did not have an opportunity to get you a letter for them.
I was
We
hunting
did-
through my packet. Okay.
We did have, we did find the letter that the police department sent in 2019 regarding all of these same exact issues. So we do have copies of that, but I did not have an opportunity to draft a follow-up letter for you. I'm sorry. The flu said no.
And you've been sick since Thursday, so I'm going to vouch for you.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But if you can just, we can just put this on for your next meeting, and I'll have something together for you by then.
Do you need a motion on that? Are we good to just move it?
I don't know if you're fine to just.
We're good? Okay. Everybody all set at the table?
Fine. Yep.
I'm good.
Okay. Item 5, discuss the Fairfield Benton fire agreement.
That was asked to be on here, but
I think I'd ask to table this until
Okay.
Michelle has the opportunity to discuss it.
Yeah, but I think it's
I don't need to open a can of worms.
sure, but I think it's a can that needs to be opened at some point.
Yes,
I would
yes.
agree.
Is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Yes. And other council business. Councilor Townsend, you can go first.
I am good tonight.
Okay. Councilor Lawrence?
Oh, yes. Next Tuesday, February 18th, the Grange is having a cooking class on, they're going to chicken pies, 6 to 8. And Sabrina's going to be the instructor. And the 21st, next Friday, is the senior luncheon at 11 to 2.
Councilor Thibodeau?
Talking about the fee schedule, and in our first meeting in January, we had talked about making changes, and I know Michelle's looking into some of them, but I really think the fee schedule should be going under old business as a regular item. And the other thing is, I'd like to know the most current number of the population in each of Fairfield's villages.
I don't think anybody keeps track of it that way, but I can find out.
Could you check? I
can check.
The comprehensive plan from 2014 mentions it, but it's not,
Might be in the census.
might be in the
The census data might have it for each one, but I'll double check.
I'm just curious as to what the populations in each area is.
Yep.
So the 5 villages, can
In
you
the
just
5.
elaborate which ones those are?
Hinckley, Shawmut, Fairfield, Fairfield Center, Larone.
Larone, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But we do a lot of, we've been talking too about economic development and everything, and the
would be
water
good to-
situation, and I think it'd be just good information for us to have. And that's it.
Councilor Tully? I just have one other thing to add, and it was, we've been talking about the Town Farm Road and bringing water up 201. I'd like to find out the distance between the Wood Farm, which I believe is the last fire hydrant on Ohio Hill Road, to the Town Farm Road.
The fire hydrant?
We were talking about bringing water up there.
Right.
Or are we talking about water and sewer up?
Well, we've been talking water.
Okay.
I'll look that up for you, Tim, because we did the water study.
Yeah.
And I think there's mention of that in that water study because of the fire hydrant. You remember that, Michelle?
It's in that PFAS, it's in that,
It's in that.
It's in that
water-
that
report.
Derigo
That'd be
report.
good to
Yeah,
know.
it's in the water study.
Okay.
And because we have maps with
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
No, I don't know where the water ends on
Should have
201.
brought it tonight.
And how far up it goes, but I was
Water
just
ends in
told that,
Shawmut. It ends
Ends
just
in
before, you know where Derigo Engineering is on 201? In the Dirigo
Right,
Solar
yeah.
Field, Dirigo Engineering.
Yeah.
Water ends just before that.
And water ends
sewer
on Ohio
ends
Hill Road at
since-
the wood farm, the old wood farm, is it?
Yeah. Yep, I think that's where that is,
So, I'm just interested to see.
how far it is.
Yeah.
on
You
that
want to know the
side.
distance.
Yes. I think it's in,
That could be a good, for that committee, the ad hoc committee that we've got started, that could be a good piece for them to know.
You're talking about the Economic Committee looking
Yes.
into it?
Yeah. That's it for me.
Super.
Okay, the next regular meeting for the Fairfield Town Council will be on Wednesday, February 24th, 2025, to be held as a hybrid meeting in the council chambers and via Zoom at 6:30 PM. At this time, we'll recess, so the council can sign all necessary documents and signatures, and we will go into executive session after that. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
motion to recess.
Make a motion recess.
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous?